Joel and Ethan Coen have been making offbeat, tightly scripted films about America for 3 decades. In 2013, their movie Inside Llewyn Davis won awards and introduced the world to Oscar Isaac. With additional appearances by Adam Driver and Justin Timberlake, this film is a window into the folk music scene of 1960s New York. And guess who shows up at one point? Davis stumbles through the hardscrabble existence of a troubadour unwilling to compromise his art. Predictably, it is a struggle. Despite one notable scene, Davis doesn't seem to have much trouble with alcohol, but he does spend a lot of time in bars. So we mixed up a classic bar cocktail, the Whiskey Sour, and sat down to discuss this enigmatic entry into the Coen Brothers oeuvre. Make one yourself and join us. It's time for episode 60 of Toasting the Classics, Inside Llewyn Davis. Welcome to Toasting the Classics, the podcast where we take something that people call a classic. In this case, I'm not sure whether people call it a classic, but maybe.
Any Coen Brothers movies is classic.
Co-host Chris definitely says it's a classic.
Yes. Spoken like a man that hasn't watched Crime Wave yet.
That's a true statement, I guess.
I haven't watched that. I haven't watched Blood Simple. There's a couple. Anyway, Toasting the Classics is the podcast where we take something that people call a classic, drink a drink inspired by that classic. We're going to drink something that we've been inspired by this classic to drink, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to pass judgment on whether this movie, in this case, is still a classic. So, Chris, you picked. What are we up to?
I'm going to backtrack real quick and just introduce myself as Chris Gragg, along with Joe Iglesias.
Hello.
And our charming and lugubrious host. Wait, that's not how you say that.
Lugubrious?
I think so.
Lugubrious host.
Is that the same as unctuous? I don't
No,
want to be
no,
unctuous.
No, unctuous is
Unctuous?
unctuous rather than unctuous.
The pregame.
All right, so what did we do? Chris, you're the picker.
We watched a Coen Brothers movie. It's one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies.
Okay.
Called Inside Llewyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
And we'll never find out what the N stands for.
Llew and Davis.
Llew and Davis. Yes.
I actually went into this thinking it was Llewellyn Davis. That was my first, and I'm not going to call that my biggest surprise of the show, but that was my big surprise. Was when I opened it up and I was like, Llewellyn is just a name from Welsh history.
It's gonna be one of those podcasts, guys.
I don't know if I want to give this little piece up, but actually one of the main characters, Llewellyn is a big character from the Mabinogion. And so is Dylan. Dylan is a Welsh name from the Mabinogion, which is obviously a character in this movie.
That's a fascinating connection.
Yeah, I think that's intentional, actually.
Although he's credited as Young Bob.
But yeah, Young Bob, and famously is not of Welsh descent.
Yes.
He was trying to cover up his actual descent as a folk hero. I went to a hotel in Baltimore one time. I was at the desk checking in, and the lady in front of me, I looked and I thought, wow, that looks exactly like Debbie Harry. So the guy at the desk, she says, I'm trying to meet Mr. Zimmerman. And the guy was like, who? He was like, Robert Zimmerman. I'm trying to meet him. I was like, Robert Zimmerman? I was like, I know that name from Zimmerman. She was like, I'm sorry, there's nobody here under that name. And the lady goes, all right, Bob Dylan. And she's like, oh, he's in room, And I was like, was that actually Debbie Harry, or was it just somebody else who was like really
Mr.
pretty
Tambourine,
in 1982 and was hanging out with Bob Dylan?
I'm surprised how many of your weird life stories don't make it onto this podcast.
It just did. It just made it onto the podcast.
Yeah, but there's so many more.
Oh, well, that's true. That's true. We have a lot of them, probably shared stories like that. I really wish that this chair wasn't as creaky as it is. I have a feeling that that's what, like, chair creaking enthusiasts, like ASMR chair creaking enthusiasts are going to tune in.
Another good episode title.
It makes it sound more old-timey.
Yes.
It does.
An old-timey vibe for an old-timey movie. This movie was a period piece, and I found myself thinking that it kind of had to be. A lot of things in this movie I don't think would have worked outside of any other particular period.
I think this has always been my theory about the Coen Brothers, is that that's what they do. Each of their movies is like a time and a place. And it's just the time and the place are like one of the characters in the movie. Hudsucker Proxy is like 1950s New York, like ad people. And like Oh Brother Where Art Thou is like the Depression South. And I mean, think of their other movies with me, and you'll see what I'm talking. Every single one is like a place and time. It's almost like they like just indulging in Americana and like putting together this little thing. And it's always American. Right? I don't think they've ever done a film that took place outside.
I think you're right. That's a really interesting through
Raising
line.
Arizona, obviously is a certain.
That was a
time and
contemporary
place.
movie, though.
It was contemporary, but now you look back and you're like, oh, this is 1980s Arizona.
Something like No Country for Old Men. I don't know that you could pin down a specific year that it took place.
It's a book. It's also a book. It's one of the only things that's adapted from. But
that leads into one of my biggest surprises, because this is
don't give it up yet. All right,
that's okay. I'm going to give it up early because I've got.
Speaking of time and place, there's a time and place for the biggest surprise. And it is in the last 10 minutes.
I'll hold it.
All right. Make a little note. Put a pin in that, as they say these days.
I will say this movie takes specifically place in 1961 New York, Greenwich Village.
I mean, immediately before Bob Dylan becomes famous would be one of the things.
Opens with that title card, even.
It does. Okay. All right. And the movie was filmed or released in late 2013.
Yep.
Must have just made it or just missed the Oscars. What's the cutoff?
I think the cutoff is December somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it premiered in Cannes in like that summer, but the official release, according to Wikipedia, an infallible source of information, is December in 2013.
Okay.
You picked this, so this must have been special to you, Chris.
It is. This is one of those movies I can come back and watch and find something new almost every time I watch it, including a new theory on what the movie is about.
You did mention you had a conspiracy theory.
I have multiple conspiracy theories about this.
That it's all going on inside his head. That's why it's called Inside Llewyn Davis.
No.
Okay.
That's the name of his album.
Yeah.
It's like the what's not
Eating Raoul.
not Cornholio. What's the ice cream trilogy?
Cornetto.
Cornetto.
The Cornholio trilogy. Beavis and Butthead only had 2 movies so far, so there's no Cornholio trilogy.
There's no Cornholio trilogy.
I can't wait.
Right. You might be able to we pre-gamed just a tad. Inside Llewyn Davis. It's a period piece. It takes place in the early 60s. It's about he's not a folk singer himself. No?
He is.
He's a folk singer. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a folk singer, which was a big scene at the time.
Yes.
Like my dad had lots of folk singer albums, and I actually really liked them when I was growing up. Things like the Smothers Brothers. I used to like listening to them. They were also kind of comedy, I guess. Definitely comedy. They were almost like spoofing on the folk.
I mean, this is 61, so it's before rock and roll. It's before a lot of the...
Before the British invasion.
Yes.
Before the British invasion are almost exactly concurrent with it. I mean, maybe like the next year is where the Beatles come over, right? 62. Yeah. So this is a different New York. I was, as a person who lives in New York now, I was watching this and I was thinking, I wish there was a scene like this. Because the Gaslight's gone. Does not exist anymore. That's closed. There is a place called the Gaslight, but it took a little bit of internet research to realize that it was just trying to ride on the coattails. It's like if somebody had a CBGB.
Yeah, it was funny to see people in lines outside the Gaslight waiting to hear folk music.
Yeah,
I was like,
wouldn't that be awesome? I would love that. I would go to that.
This did feel like aggressively 60s. Not in the way that most people think of. Like, most people think of like a Woodstock kind of thing when you say that. But and this also ties in like a big thing is that like Llewyn Davis himself, he's kind of a Holden Caulfield. He's very much that same kind of protagonist. Catcher in the Rye was about like that same kind of era.
It's about the same time period, basically. But I think he's got a mission in life, which is what's missing for Holden Caulfield. Holden Caulfield is just like rejecting everything. He's like lost in life and like doesn't know what to do with himself. This guy, he knows what he wants. This guy wants to succeed as a folk singer.
Llewyn Davis is very lost. He's a very struggling musician, but he's a homeless dude. He's begging strangers to sleep in their houses.
The fact that he is couch surfing ties in quite a lot to the story.
Yes.
No, but I mean, he knows exactly what he wants. He's just failing.
Yeah,
this is about a guy who's failing.
Yeah,
he's like he goes and he has that huge audition. He gets all the way to Chicago. Should we do like a synopsis, basically?
Well, it's such a picaresque movie, but it does all move in one direction. Yeah, I mean,
it turns out to be non-linear, which is
only slightly. I feel like it just So the opening scene turns out to be the last scene.
Theoretically, yes. Yeah. But the opening scene and the last scene are the same, except for about 40 seconds, which are added on the end, which
there's a little up top too. We don't. I don't think we see young Bob in the original.
No, he just shows up at the end.
Yeah.
No, I think at the end, in the beginning of the movie, you just see him.
It's
play and then have a little conversation where he apologizes to Pappy,
gets told there's someone outside,
and that's it. We don't see the part where he tells him what's going on, that he slept with the girl. And
you see him get beat up in the alley, and then it transitions into the main scene where he wakes up in the Glorfinkel's apartment and loses their cat, and the narrative starts from there.
So extremely 60s period.
And that's why I want there to be a scene like this in New York today, because I live in the West Side. You know,
moving on up,
we could be like the nice Jewish family that lets people like folk singers come and stay with us. You know, I would totally do that. Like that would be fun. I'd like to be a patron of the
as long as they don't lose your cat.
All right, so
I don't have a cat.
All right, so
my kids. If my kids go out the window,
all couch surfing folk singers listening to this podcast, you know where to go.
Ornito Rinco. Yeah, no, that's not my Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is @Ractive Nuisance. That gets let out, and I have not looked at Twitter in a little bit.
And
you still give out the handle.
I do. People should send me messages.
Well, just make sure
my Twitter doesn't work because the Vandals took my handle.
So I have a theory that's not one of those crazy theories about this movie, that it's largely about the main character, Llewyn Davis, being in the last 2 stages of grief over the death of his partner.
So for a movie called Inside Llewyn Davis, we don't get inside Llewyn Davis that much. We know the things he does. We don't know many of the things about him. A lot of his history is just straight up like not brought up at all in the movie. Like a lot of it is just kind of like just contextual.
It takes a while to find out that he lost his folk singer partner.
We
I like how that's dished out. That was effective.
Yeah.
You find it out on the car trip he takes to Chicago.
Yes.
So that when F. Murray Abraham
Right.
tells him specifically, I don't see a lot of money in this, and I think you should
join your partner.
I think
again.
you should get back together with your partner. And when he says, "Yeah, that might be a good idea," that hits.
That's where I thought the movie was going. I thought the movie was going to end with him joining his partner again.
Yeah.
That's what I was This movie to me seemed like there was a sense of menace throughout the whole thing. Like something bad was going to happen.
There absolutely is.
Because the beginning was kind of like that. You see that scene, but then that plays out again at the end, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I thought that scene was going to be about something very different. I thought that scene was going to be about Akron.
I thought he was going to be...
That faked me up, too, the first time I saw it. Actually, perhaps a trigger warning, honestly, too.
I suppose so.
This movie is rated R for alcoholism, foul language, sexual content, smoking, substance abuse, and violence.
Substance abuse?
Substance abuse and alcohol.
Oh, yes, John Goodman. Yes, that's true.
Yes, that's actually fairly...
John Goodman on the nod.
Blues singer chasing
I wouldn't
the horse.
say intense, but it's definitely not... Like, they don't pull any
He's a
punches
jazz.
with it.
Jazz
It's kind of a gross heroin.
He's very specific about being jazz.
I will trust you to remember that.
He might be a blues traveler,
yeah.
but he's a jazz musician.
No, he's busting on Llewyn Davis for being a folk singer. He has no respect for their...
Absolutely not.
And man, what a just tremendous, on all cylinders jerk he's being.
Yes.
He vacillates between being unconscious and unbearable jerk.
So speaking of menace, another thing, I kept expecting there to be a dead body in this movie, and there wasn't. Many scenes, I kept expecting Llewyn Davis to have to figure out what to do with the corpse, which is very Coen Brothers, but it never goes there.
Yeah, I kind of... Well, because John Goodman, you think, is going to be...
Well, that's one of them, yes.
So, you mentioned the trigger warning. One of those trigger warnings being substance abuse and alcoholism.
Yes.
And we are drinking for this podcast
We are.
tonight.
Well, there's
Who wants to
another
have a
potential trigger warning that we'll get to maybe after we talk about the drinks.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. So, what are we drinking, Christopher?
These are whiskey sours.
Whiskey sours, okay.
Traditional whiskey sours made with egg white, Angostura bitters.
Yeah, a lot of this movie takes place in bars, but there's not a lot of focus on liquor per se.
No, not
really.
really.
So we just kind of went with like a classic bar drink.
And actually, Llewyn Davis has one part of the film where he gets pretty drunk, but otherwise...
Stinking drunk, but we don't know what he
But
drank.
otherwise, he doesn't really seem to have a big problem with that. No. Considering the scene he's in, you'd think that would be...
That is not one of his many problems.
No, it is not one of his big problems.
Incidentally, the opening and ending scene.
Right.
Yes.
So this is a film... whiskey sour. Let's talk about what's in the whiskey sour. Then we'll do a little bit of synopsis to not leave people in the
Simple
dirt.
syrup,
Okay.
lemon, Angostura
bitters.
bitters.
The spirit is...
Oh, we actually used bourbon in this particular
Use bourbon,
case.
okay. What kind of bourbon?
Let me pull the bottle so you can see.
Bourbon, whiskey, cider.
Old Forester. Okay. All right.
Oh, and of course egg whites, which,
And of
give
course,
us the
egg
froth
whites.
for the top.
That's the part that surprised me. I remember my parents drinking these and always thinking, like, what is in this that makes it fizz up the way it does? What do you get that froth from? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Just the egg whites kind of reacting with everything else.
Like an egg cream.
So speaking of warnings, I do want to give a salmonella warning for anybody out there who's drinking this, because we got a little...
Salud.
Now that's just a convivial cheers. That does not automatically advocate for Inside Llewyn Davis. We're going to
Or salmon.
We've got the next little while for that.
Yes, that's going to come at the end of the show.
But the other potential trigger warning, I guess, is this movie does discuss abortion.
Why?
It's eternal and timely.
What do you mean? What's timely about that? Is there anything going on in particular?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, no, me either.
Well, taking place in 1961, I believe it does predate the seminal Roe v. Wade.
It certainly sounds like it from the way they're talking about it, as if everybody's committing a crime.
Yes.
So this is a movie, essentially, like Joe said, it's just kind of a depiction of a guy's life.
Yeah, like
it's
many
pretty much just a chapter. I don't know. What do you think? A couple of weeks? In his life?
That sounds about right.
I think specifically it is 1 week.
So we come in a way, in his life in medias res, because he's lost his partner, which is a big
an
deal
indeterminate amount of time ago.
An indeterminate amount of time ago, but not super long. I don't think 6 months. I think he mentions at one point.
Enough time to put out a solo album, and that's all.
Okay.
I guess that's true.
Okay, that's true. And he's not taking it well on a lot of levels. He's not succeeding professionally without his partner. He's not happy without his partner. He's like aimless.
He's crashing on people's couches to the point of like asking, just like hitting up people he's literally just met to crash on their couches.
There's a desperation to the film, to the story of the film. Oscar Isaac does not play it that way. Oscar Isaac seems to have a sense of he's kind of like winking and like a little bit of a comedic tone to the way he plays it. Even though it's this is bad. This is a situation. I was expecting this film to end in suicide or death. I was expecting this to be like The Spiral, and it ended up feeling like a chapter. Like a rough chapter in some guy's life. Like maybe things are going to be okay at some point.
So it is a Coen Brothers movie, and and very few of their movies are completely humorless. A lot of the humor in this is absurdity. It's supposed to be people making an actual joke, although Llewyn does like rip on people every now and then.
A little bit.
I don't know. I didn't get that read out of Oscar Isaac's performance. He really felt struggling to me.
There's a darkness to it, in my opinion. Yes.
He seems to get up off the mat more often than I would think. I kept expecting this to be the bad event that like makes him spiral down.
Well, it's an interesting. What do you think is his lowest moment in the movie?
When he goes back to the Merchant Marine.
No, I think it's the inner audition with F. Murray Abraham. I think is the lowest.
I actually have a third. I think it is the moment when the car.
Yeah,
he's pulled over,
yes.
And the driver gets taken out, and he's pulled out of the car, and he has to walk to Chicago, and he stops and he looks at the cat, and he decides to leave the cat in the car with the jazz musician and just walk to Chicago.
Yes,
Hitchhike.
Yeah, there's a bit of on the road in that trip to Chicago. Yep. There's one of the things I noticed is the whole bit about finding out that and this is a spoiler alert for something that people might not have seen, by the way, so I want to preface it with that. Maybe don't listen. When you find out as the viewer that the partner died,
yes,
I realized that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge did that in Fleabag. It's almost the same story. It's very similar. Someone who's struggling and like not doing very well in London instead of New York, and in the contemporary times. And when you find out about her friend dying, like the friend's dead at the beginning, but then you find out why towards the end of the show, and it was revealed in a very similar way. I thought she might have been inspired by this movie.
I think it's an interesting choice also to have that reveal come after he's already had the breakdown of the Glorfinkels when Mrs. Glorfinkel starts singing his partner's lyrics and he freaks out.
I knew by then though.
I did not pick up on that part of it. That's real good.
See how smart you are.
Yeah.
See, I think
they got the big round Chris.
I think when that happened, when she started playing, I think I knew the partner was dead already. I think I had figured that out somehow.
Yeah, I don't think they've said it, but there are enough hints there that you could probably figure it out.
I think I had it figured out because I remember realizing why that happened. I was like, well, that's why he's having a freak out. She should have known better. Like, although he plays it as if he's Mr. Tough guy.
Yeah, as if he was just being an a-hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the other people there don't know, and they play it that way too.
Yes.
Which certainly leans into it.
That's true.
One of the other signature portions of the movie is also the studio session that he has recording "Please, Mr. Kennedy."
Yes,
a novelty space age stage,
and it's like a star-studded recording session because it's Justin Timberlake, and it's Adam Driver. Yeah. Adam Driver extremely early in his career.
Adam Driver also absolutely stealing the scene.
Kind of.
I love the way they're practicing that song, and he's just saying things on the side and throwing him off, and
he does that thing with his head where he ducks down. He's great in this. I remember seeing Girls. And when he got cast to be in Force Awakens, I was like, why? I'm really not impressed with this guy. I watched a little bit of Girls. I didn't watch the whole thing. It's kind of intolerable, but
it gets that way after the second season, I think.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe we watched it for more than one season. But watching this, I was like, oh, I like this guy a lot. Yeah. And it's apparently this is where they did most of their casting for the Force Awakens because obviously
Justin Timberlake.
So Poe Dameron is and Justin Timberlake.
Maybe we should talk about the underlying uncomfortableness of that scene, though. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. You have Gene and Jim.
Yeah.
So Carey Mulligan playing Gene,
right,
and Justin Timberlake is Jim.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Very early on in the movie, we find out that Gene is pregnant and says it's Llewyn's baby.
And Llewyn has
that it might be.
It might be.
Yeah, so that she's clearly that she's been cheating on her. Are they married? Is it or just partners?
I believe they are married. Yes.
Yes, cheating on her partner with Llewyn Davis.
And I will say, Carey Mulligan gives an incendiary performance in this. She is so angry in the early scenes and somewhat forgiving in the late scenes, but she steals every scene she's in. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's really spitting fire.
You know who she's married to?
No.
The dude from Mumford and Son, which is super appropriate for this movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like I was thinking, like I looked that up.
I believe Mumford and Son actually
I think
did.
they're in it. I think they either wrote a song or did all the songs.
They performed Dink's song.
It's something Mumford is the guy's name. I can't think of what his.
Yeah, they performed.
It's not like Hootie and the Blowfish, where there's not.
Well, there's no Hootie or Blowfish.
Which I think in this one is If I Had Wings, which is the song he sings with Mike, his partner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's the very central song that.
Yes, Marcus Mumford himself does the voice of the part. The singing voice of the part.
Okay. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. So there's that underlying thing, and the reason he does that song with them is because he needs the money to pay for the abortion,
Right.
which his friend invited him to, and it's for his friend's wife. So
Right.
that's the uncomfortable portion of it.
And then he signs away the rights to it because he's in a hurry and needs the cash. And it's
For
like
that.
as
Yes.
soon as you hear that happening, when you're watching, you're like, oh, that's going to be
Yeah,
okay.
they get
They're
right.
going to make
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah.
Which is like you said, it's anti-King Midas.
Another one of Carey Mulligan's great lines is, you're like King Midas' idiot brother.
Right.
Everything
Everything
he touches,
everything
he
you touch
ruins.
turns to not gold. Let's just
Yes.
A less valuable,
Dross.
a less valuable substance.
commodity than gold.
Yes.
Are you big on Coen Brothers in general?
Yes.
What's your favorite Coen Brothers movie?
Maybe No Country.
That's a good. I like that.
It certainly
I like that.
it certainly sticks with you.
I like that one.
I have not seen all their movies. I've seen because
No,
they
I
are
haven't
pretty
seen
prolific.
all
but
of them,
I've seen a bunch. There are some big ones I haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Blood Simple yet.
I've never
But
seen
like,
that.
but like
that's their first movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
No.
that.
Crime Wave is their first movie.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
always heard Blood Simple was okay. Was
Blood
Crime
Simple-
Wave not like a major release or something?
No, Crime Wave was on team with Sam Raimi, a friend of theirs. It's very much like
So your favorite Coen Brothers movie?
It's probably still Fargo.
Oh, I even forgot.
This
that
is
that
probably
was Coen
my
Brothers. Yeah.
third favorite Coen Brothers movie.
Well, Bill,
what's number 2? Lady Killers. That was a joke, everyone.
yes.
God, I'm vapor
Yeah, you
locking.
can tell by
What's-
the dead
what's-
silence that was met with.
What's the one, the gangster movie that...
The gangs? Oh, you're talking about Miller's Crossing.
Miller's
Miller's
Crossing.
Crossing,
Yeah,
yeah.
Miller's Crossing. I love Miller's Crossing.
My favorite is Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I just watch it over and over.
That's
again. That's a
definitely
movie I
top
enjoy
5 for me.
watching over.
Yeah.
And Fargo, I actually
Yeah.
really like watching over and over.
The Coen Brothers. They
Bill,
made a lot
Bill
of
Macy.
movies.
Bill Macy came to a film festival in Las Cruces, and
wow.
they did a showing of Fargo, and so we got to go and see him talk about
Wait,
the movie. He
did
was-
you call him Bill Macy?
Yeah, that's what he calls himself.
Okay.
now. He's trying to-
Yeah. If you're on a first name basis with him.
No, that's what he announced himself as. So it's like, I guess that's what he's called now. Like,
All
it's
right.
not because we're friends. I mean, we are. We hang out.
Yeah.
There's not that many people to hang out with in Las Cruces, so he I showed him around.
But yeah, the Coen Brothers. They made a lot of movies. Most of them pretty good.
Yes, I think so. I like a lot of Raising Arizona. We didn't mention as well.
That's my other top 5.
Just
Yeah.
there's a bit where they get in a fight in the trailer, and Nicolas Cage goes to punch the other guy and puts his hands over his. No, it's John Goodman goes to punch him with his hands over his head and scrapes his hands across that like stucco ceiling they have.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh!
I forgot John Goodman was in that movie too.
Yes,
man.
yes.
He's been in
So-
most of their movies. Yeah.
So, off the top of your head, how many of the Coen Brothers movies would you say John Goodman had appeared in?
Man.
Because he's in this one. He has a
Yeah.
very memorable part in this.
Yeah.
7?
I mean, I forgot he was in Raising
7?
Arizona.
He's in Barton Fink. I know that.
Okay.
Boy, I got to recuse myself from this one.
I mean, he's in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. He's in this. He's
See, I
in-
didn't remember
He's
that
in
one
Raising
either.
Arizona.
Right.
He's in 6 of their movies.
Really? Okay.
So it's actually lower than I thought. Like,
was
I was
lower.
thinking, I was like, man, doesn't he like appear in all of their movies or something? Does anybody else think did John Goodman need to gain weight for this part?
No, but he lost weight immediately after this.
Okay,
Okay.
this
I
is
think he had
before
heart
the great drop.
problems.
Yeah. All right. Because I was like, man, like you get John Goodman to be in your movie, and you're like, could you put on like 50 pounds?
Yeah.
Like, he looked very much about to die.
He's like
And
Bob De Niro. He suffers for his art.
Where do you think his sister lives?
I assume Jersey because he gets
Okay.
dropped off there by the guy that's driving to Jersey.
That's yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be. I was thinking like Sheepshead Bay, like Rockaway, some
Yeah.
place.
So
Long
no,
Island, somewhere, I don't know.
so circling back a bit of the period piece aspect, like I feel like the ease with which he like hitchhikes around,
Yeah, right.
or just like crash on people's couches. I feel like in a contemporary movie that would be a lot harder to justify.
Do you know when they say that changed?
When?
Is In Cold Blood. When the book In Cold Blood
Oh,
came out,
wow.
it's
Good
literally right about the same time, I think, like 1960, 61, something like that. People
were
stopped
less
hitchhiking
less inclined
because
to bring
of
people into their
Dick and
house.
Perry in that
Yeah.
book. Like, I think they kill somebody when they're hitchhiking or something. But anyway, it just changed the way people thought about that. Even though people totally still got killed when they were hitchhiking.
Yeah. Also,
in the
maybe an
40s,
important,
you
also
know?
maybe an important point here, and it maybe circles back to the trigger warning we kind of slid away from, which is that Llewyn Davis, maybe not a great guy, screws a lot of things up, is kind of an asshole at a lot of times,
A little bit.
but he's not a scumbag. And that can be a
No.
little hard. He never steals anything from any of these people whose lives he just slides in and out of, and it would be really easy for him to.
I don't think so.
That is an interesting point that you bring up. And in rewatches, I realized you remember Pappy, the guy who introduces him at the beginning of the movie.
You mean Vinny Del Pino from Doogie Howser?
Yes.
Ooh,
Well, you mentioned he also talks that he's been sleeping.
but yes,
Yes.
mhm.
So that very easily could not be Llewyn's child.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
it
a
already
possibility.
easily couldn't because she's married.
Yeah.
But she goes to Llewyn for this rather than Pappy.
Right.
Because Pappy is a scumbag.
Right.
Yeah.
And Llewyn is not. And she knows that he has, in the past,
he's a good guy on some level.
paid for
That's true. Yeah,
this procedure.
not his first go around.
Paid for an abortion that ended up never happening.
Yeah. So
he's got a gift card.
weirdly in this unlicensed environment, yes. Bonus drink to anyone who can name the cat.
I know that. Well, it's cheating because I just watched this movie about 4 hours ago.
So did I.
What was the cat's name?
But I'm asking the question, so yes.
Yeah, the cat is Ulysses,
Thank you, sir.
which dumbfounds Llewyn.
Yes.
No, he's just shocked. He's like, "That's the cat's name."
Oh yeah, that's right. He finds out at the
That's
end.
another hilarious point when he has the breakdown with the Glorfingels,
Yeah.
and Miss Glorfinkel comes in and says, "This is not our cat."
So two things. Where is
His
that is
scrotum?
that is one of the slimy things he does, I guess, is replacing the cat.
Well, he thinks it is the cat.
he generally thinks
does?
it is the cat.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah. So
See, I got the impression he just didn't care.
Yeah.
He just got a cat.
No,
Oh, okay, all right.
so,
He loses their cat. He's
yeah.
watching a cat. The cat gets out the window, and there's a bunch of the movie in the beginning where he's chasing around after this cat.
So on this topic, so number one, cat hubris. I knew immediately as soon as that window got opened, the cat was going to go out of it.
Yes.
That's like a Chekhov's
Yes.
gun.
Yes.
And I knew as soon as he found the cat in the street, it was going to be the wrong cat. That's just how these things go.
None of that was surprising.
But-
Although it looked like the same cat.
It did.
right?
It did.
Sure.
It
I'm not a cat person.
Yeah, random cat.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Shape of Water episode proved none of us are cat people.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You think this was the same cat? It looked like the same cat.
No,
It's
that
the
cat got
same
ate,
cat
that
that
cat got ate by a fishman.
10
Couldn't be the
years
same
later, right? So how could it be the same cat?
Wait,
Yeah, you're right.
when is like 2017 or so?
No, but it's set. That we're talking about. If we're going to continue the gag, it's when the movie is set.
Oh, you mean
All right,
within the
you
universe.
destroyed the bit.
But the movie was set in 1957. Shape of Water.
Wait, wasn't this a 2007 movie? Am I totally off?
This movie's 2013.
Oh,
All right.
good lord.
All right, I've been drinking too much to think this fourth dimensionally, you guys. So going back,
Shape of Water is set during the space race.
Yes.
Remember? And this would
But
be
so is
about,
this.
This would be the same. Could be the same cat.
Yeah.
Is Baltimore, New York? You can get from Baltimore. Haven't you ever seen Incredible Journey or something like that?
Llewyn Davis saw the poster for Incredible Journey.
He
did?
Yes.
Maybe it is the same cat.
I wasn't even thinking about that when I said that.
See, hidden layers in this movie. Chris,
Oh.
And the
right.
cat finds its way home, so it
Yes.
all comes together.
There you
Yeah,
go.
but to circle back on topic, Dave, I would actually agree that is
Why
not-
does he see that movie poster? What is that?
he just
Because
he's
it's
walking down
after-
the street?
It's
Well,
after the
why-
cat comes back, and he's like tying it together, and it came
Yeah.
out in the era, and I think it just
Okay.
He's like,
he just happened
No,
to
it
get-
didn't. It didn't. It was an error. It's the wrong year for Incredible Journey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was in the
Oh.
errata somewhere.
Oh,
I
man.
mentioned it.
But yeah.
So I was like, the director definitely wanted that poster
Yeah,
to be in
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
movie.
I would argue that whole cat arc is an example of Llewyn Davis not being a scumbag. Because if he was a scumbag, he'd just let the cat go and not cared.
Right.
But like he makes a
Right.
point to like when the cat escapes, he makes a
Unless-
point. He chases after the cat on multiple occasions.
Unless
because
he's worried he can't freeload off these people anymore if he loses their cat. It could just be self-interest.
Isn't it interesting that they give him the cat after they find out it's not the right one? Because he has it with him.
Yeah,
when
he's
traveling
yeah,
to
he's
Chicago.
straight. Yeah. Well, they don't
He's
want
traveling
that.
where?
To Chicago.
Yeah, the cat is.
He's
Yeah,
in the car
yeah.
with
Oh,
the-
they apparently doesn't have the heart to just like kick it out
at that point.
at that
Not
point.
yet.
No, he leaves
Yeah.
it with somebody.
I
Who
mean,
does he leaves it with the guy that gets
leaves it with
arrested?
John
No,
Goodman.
he
with John
he lives it with
Goodman's
unconscious John Goodman.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the driver is the one who gets arrested.
Right.
Yes.
The driver like decides to attack the cop or something.
No.
What happened?
The
there?
cop just gets triggered super easy.
Oh,
like
okay.
he like the cop is just straight up not showing the proper deference. It just escalates to 11.
Yeah.
I was definitely expecting that from a movie from this time period.
Yeah,
That
I
the
was wondering if
the
he was gonna
cop
punch the dude
The
out,
cop was going to
but-
beat somebody over the head or something. It's like you don't want to get pulled over by the cops in 1950s,
Yeah.
like Ohio or 1960s Ohio. or
Even
whatever.
though, as earlier discussed, there's exactly one black person in this movie, and he doesn't even have a line.
Did we decide that that's 100% true? There's no black folks in this movie?
None of speaking
yeah.
parts.
I think that was decided off camera, actually.
Yes.
Just,
we talked
yes.
about this before, yes.
Pre-recording, yes. So this movie kind of goes back and forth on how sympathetic Llewyn himself is because he basically gets no breaks. He's definitely very put upon and sinned against, but at the same time he also like makes a lot of trouble. Like when he
seems
does
pretty even
makes some
to me.
trouble. Usually,
It
well,
seems to me like he dishes out just about as much as he takes, like in general. Like he kind of causes some of these problems. He's not as kind to people as he should be who are helping him out, but also
sure. The biggest freak out is that,
like you said, like she goes to him because she figures he's the one that will actually try to do something about
Yes.
her being pregnant. He's not just going to ditch her.
yeah.
He has a heart. I think the Rolling Stone article for the movie described him as talent unblessed by fortune, and I think that's pretty accurate.
That's about what they're going for.
Yeah, that's a good tagline.
He's just failing.
He is clearly his best self when he is on stage performing,
Mm-hmm.
and his worst self when he is off stage interacting with other people he doesn't know.
Why do they show Dylan?
Oh,
Why
boy.
does Dylan show up?
There has to
Because
be
it's not-
a certain level of despair that you feel as a folk singer in the 60s when you are not Dylan, right?
But I think is Dylan supposed to be a nobody at the time? Like he doesn't know
This
who
is
Dylan
the breakout for Dylan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he's on his way up.
I believe they mentioned at one point that there's going to be someone from the Times that
Yes.
that particular show, and that he will have to split the hat.
Yeah.
So Dylan is the other performer, and he's coming off stage because he's performing first, and he has that lingering look at Dylan because he's like, "Oh my God, this guy's better than me."
Do you think that's how Dylan would come across? Would he be like a thunderbolt of talent when you saw him? And the guy has this kind of scratchy voice. And
In
stuff
'61, yeah, I do.
Okay.
That's true. It is very hard to like living in a post Dylan world. It's a thought exercise to imagine like what hearing Bob Dylan for the first time pre Bob Dylan world would have been like.
I mean,
don't
people
know.
love him.
Yeah.
But I've always thought that a lot of what they love is really the writing. Like,
It is.
I like Dylan's voice, but it's because I know who he is. I like Dylan. Like those guys on Just King things, they hate Bob Dylan. It comes up over and over, and I'm like, why do they hate Bob Dylan? What do they have against Bob Dylan? What do
He
you ever
does
do
have
to
a bad
anybody?
voice. He does.
But he has a distinctive voice.
He does.
There's
Oh,
a certain timbre to his voice that I like. I like listening.
My
to
dad
him, you know?
hates Dylan, but I mean,
But at least your dad lived
I
through the
understand.
era. He has, that makes sense for him.
Slight tangent here, Chris, but as a Llewyn Davis super
Oh
fan,
God, heaven forfend!
I know. So again, Dylan the part is credited in the credits as Young Bob, but scrolling through the credits, Llewyn Davis's dad Hugh Davis, uncredited.
does not have a speaking role. And his dad is referenced in the Merchant Marines every time. Oh, you're ex
Are you
Davis's
Hugh
son.
Davis's
Hugh
kid?
Davis's
Yeah.
son, yeah.
His dad is an actor I've seen in other things too. I remember thinking that.
There are a lot of people. It took me a while to realize that was John Goodman, like his very affected getup.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize F. Murray Abraham at all.
F.
Oh,
Murray
no,
Abraham
definitely, yeah.
gives the most devastating line of the movie, too. I think there's some meat here. I'm going to dive into my biggest surprise
Please.
because I think
Okay.
there'll be a lot of discussion here.
Okay. My
But-
biggest surprise is how early you're giving us your biggest surprise, but okay, go for it.
I love it.
Boom.
My biggest surprise was this is based on an autobiography
Right.
by Dave Van Ronk.
Dave Van Ronk.
Inspired by, per Wikipedia, but we'll get
Yes,
there. Maybe.
inspired, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Sounded about right. yeah.
Dave Van Ronk was a very successful folk singer starting in the early 60s, the same era. He's probably best known for putting the composition together for what later became the Animals' biggest hit.
House of the Rising Sun.
Yes, House of the Rising Sun. He did a folk version of that, which they turned into kind of like a bluesy rock version of it, which became very popular.
Traditional?
It is an old traditional song,
Yeah, okay.
but Van Ronk apparently did the arrangement for it,
Nice.
which Dylan recorded, and then they recorded Dylan's version of it.
That's one of the first songs I ever learned how to play from start to finish on guitar.
Oh, really?
I can actually
Interesting.
play all the way through.
Is it
It's fun to
like
do
a
it.
simple basic chord setup?
I think
or
that,
Thank you, John
sometimes-
Goodman.
Sometimes what you find
A,
on
B, B, C. Yes.
exactly that's it. Yeah, I mean that's what you find on guitar ultimate tabs is somebody's like cheapened version. It's like an easier version of it. So maybe I don't know, but okay.
But yes,
so you were saying-
inspired by Dave Van Ronk, even if maybe not closely based on.
But
Well,
Dave
I
Van
think it is-
Ronk, I feel like is a name that we don't know that name.
I
so
didn't
I
know
feel like
before this,
Llewyn
yeah.
Davis very easily could be a character who could have been important in the folk scene, done a lot of influential things, and just kind of disappeared. Like there's probably 100 guys like
So I was actually I was assuming this was not like an actual biopic, but I was briefly unsure because there is something else on Amazon where I think we all watched this time. There's like a project celebrating the music of Llewyn Davis, which briefly made me wonder: wait, was Llewyn Davis a real guy?
that. Right. No, I didn't
feel
see
like
that.
a lot of the elements in the movie, kind of like the couch surfing, the fact that he doesn't take his childhood things and tells his sister to put them on the street because he doesn't want to admit that he's couch surfing and can't take them, ties in.
Sure.
Like the $200 where he's fighting for the $200, signs away the royalties specifically to pay for the abortion,
And then ultimately doesn't need the $200. Very
Doesn't
Coen
need it.
Brothers the absurd.
then winds up
Black
using
humor.
most
Like
of
Henry.
it to pay for the Merchant Marine license.
His back union dues.
His back union dues and like everything, and then winds up performing at the Gaslight to get the money to pay for his other license that was thrown out.
Also, that the one night where he could have had the opportunity to be heard by like the New York Times and like have his big break, Dylan's there.
Yep.
Yes.
Freaking Bob Dylan shows up on that night. You know?
Talent unblessed by opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it felt like. And
Yeah.
the audition with F. Murray Abraham, I thought he sounded great. Right?
Yeah,
The point
yeah,
is, he sounds great.
I certainly
right?
think he sounds worse than
great,
ever.
but that is possibly the worst song he could have picked for it. And this is something that ties in all through, like Dink's song, "Life Isn't Worth Living Without the One You Love."
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly about his partner that died.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's also.
Are you doing a queer read on this, or are you just
No. I'm just saying
that he cares about his partner?
Yeah, he cared about his partner. But there's also a line in there about your unborn child. The song he sings in that one is about King Henry and Queen Jane, which I believe is about Henry V and
Jane Seymour?
Jane Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another error in the film when he goes to, is it Toledo or Akron?
Well, he passes. He specifically does not go to Akron.
He passes through Akron and he turns off on US 80. US 80 is in the south. I-80 goes through Akron, Ohio. That's the one. Remember we had the trivia night the other night where it was all the which interstates went between what cities, and I was just like boom, 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 boom.
Because you've been everywhere,
I've
man.
spent my life in a very
transient.
we actually haven't had to drink. We were playing a drinking game tonight about we'd have to drink when Joe swears.
I've been good so far.
So far, but now he's got another drink here, so we'll see. What
I mean,
happens.
it depends on what you count as a swear. He said a few that are borderline.
What,
Did he?
Cornhole?
Have we gotten up to the point where we can do like the crazy theories?
Yes, please.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we're already there. Although
Okay.
I don't have an
Yeah.
have an overwrought theory of the week this time,
Yes.
so you can go. Although I have to say, I think perhaps a schizophrenia read on it, and that's why they're saying inside Llewyn Davis, because the whole thing is taking place inside his head, is a possible read. I don't have a lot of evidence to back it up because I wasn't thinking of it when I watched it, but I have been mulling over why is it called Inside Llewyn Davis? Why is the movie called that? Because we talked, it's just the name of the album.
The album's
the album's not real,
And F.
so
Murray
why?
Abraham has a real part where he sits down and says, "Play me something from
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Ah, okay.
Very
I
loaded
like
line.
that. A little double
Yeah.
entendre there. Yeah, I like that. What about?
And it is a character study of him.
Yes.
Even though you don't find too much out about him.
It's inside his world.
Sure.
Yes. And
Actually, you know what? You're talking about. You were saying that we don't get a lot about him, and I was thinking he lacks a certain amount of internality. And the movie's called Inside Llewyn Davis, and it may be this is my overwrought theory of the week. Is that we actually don't get a lot of internality for this character.
he's
and
very
the film
closed
is
off.
called Inside Llewyn Davis. We watch him for an hour and a half, and we don't get Inside Llewyn Davis.
He's very closed off.
That's
there are
my
also
overwrought
certain
theory.
scenes that are just elided. You know, there's after he comes back to
Chris
Jersey.
just got a lot cuter after he said he
Thank
liked
you. I appreciate that. He comes back to Jersey
Solipsistic.
and has that breakfast with his nephew. Your uncle is a bad man.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
walks out.
Yep.
He goes to the Merchant Marine, and you know his sister's been pressuring him into it.
Yep.
So he goes to that. You don't get the scene where she does it again. He just sort of does it. There are certain scenes that are just sort of filled in with what you know of him to that point, and it just reaches the next logical conclusion.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get the scene where he realizes, I need the money, I have to go back to the Gaslight. You know, Carrie Muglin, whatever her name is, Jean, has invited me back there. I need to go back and do it. He's just there and does it.
Which I feel is very Coen's brothery.
So where are you going with that?
That was really more of a side than anything else.
Okay.
But so one of the popular theories online is this is actually a Groundhog Day movie.
Yeah.
He's repeating the same day over and over again. That's why it starts and ends on the same portion.
Okay, I'm gonna toss that one.
I tend to agree with you, but I'm going to explore it to
I
its fullest.
I like it. I like it, but that's not what they're doing.
Thematically, hell yes.
Yeah.
Literally,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I just want to bring up there's a point
Okay.
where Gene tells him that he doesn't know who he is. He's repeating the same thing over and over. And
Why do you think we get the nonlinear opening and ending?
it is interesting because there are additions to the ending. The Dylan portion is only at the end. It's not at the beginning.
Okay, right.
Also, you don't get the au revoir at the end.
Yes.
So there are two additions to
Did you
it.
say it like Ouroboros? Like
Au revoir.
Although that's
He
an
says-
interesting read.
yeah.
Au revoir. My own personal crazy crackpot theory, which I haven't seen anywhere else, is the Gaslight is the central area, the central focus and location that you keep coming back to.
Okay.
And that's not a coincidence. I think everyone in every scene is being gaslit by
I
someone.
was gonna say gaslight. Yeah. Okay. So everyone in every scene is being gaslit by someone.
And I think if you rewatch the movie,
Okay, so you're saying we get more information in the second version. To me, what that says, what that leads me as a reader, is to think that we must have different viewpoints. usually when you get more information or different information, you got a viewpoint.
It's all a viewpoint from his viewpoint. It's all him seeing Dylan being like, oh, because he does get that look in his eye.
Right.
This guy's
why
good.
is it different? Why is the scene different?
Yeah.
What are they trying to tell us?
I think
with
it's
that?
emphasizing different issues, and honestly, I do think. I think the gaslight
it's not
issue,
Groundhog Day because nothing happens different.
I agree. I totally discard the Groundhog Day theory. I lean much more into the gaslight theory, in which everyone in every scene is being gaslit somewhat. So when Carey Mulligan is telling him it's his child, that's a gaslight. She doesn't bring up the fact. Pappy is something that comes up at the end of the movie. You don't really realize.
That's true. That's extremely
Sure.
that's extremely late game that recontextualizes the earlier scene. You're right.
But it must have happened in the first version of the scene. We just don't get the whole.
But you don't know because you haven't been introduced.
It's implied. The implication in the way that scene plays out is that.
Do you guys want me to open up the curtain a little bit and show you the old man behind there for a second?
Go for it.
Sure.
So the Coen Brothers were actually quoted as creating this film from having an image of what happens at the beginning, of just thinking of some guy in an alley getting beat up and imagining a story of a folk singer.
Interesting.
And so they put the film together with the little pastiche image that they started the film out with, and then filled in a story, and then maybe just added some details at the end because they thought of some more details. And it almost is just kind of how it got written. And it's almost like seeing metatextually the writing of the film laid out in front of you.
I wonder when the book of the autobiography of Dave Van Rump came in. I think it's called
relatively late. I think it's 2005 or 2007.
Okay.
Oh,
But came into the writing process of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. They might have gone and done. I believe they just kind of were hit with a thunderbolt with this idea, just as we could write a story around this particular image in our head.
And if I may,
and then they did the research, and that's where they came up with Dave Van Rump.
And if I may piggyback on you a little bit, further, again, per Wikipedia, the infallible source of information, so the Coens were apparently concerned that there wasn't a real story through line of the movie, and that's why they added in the cat stuff.
Honestly, I think the cat may be the supporting character of the movie, like the primary supporting actor.
Or I guess cats plural technically, since it's two different cats
cat.
within the film. Within the fiction, it's two different cats.
But I'm not
sure the cat that goes to Chicago is a different cat.
I understand that. I'm not sure it's actually two different cats. Though.
And
it looks like the same cat.
I mean, it's got different private.
They apparently again.
I'm not sure we're shown that in the movie.
Our silent partner Wikipedia, Megan, contribute. It is claimed per Wikipedia that there were multiple cat actors, that they basically shot the scenes based on which cat
was behaving.
Yeah,
right. That's what they did in Willow with the babies, by the way. That's why in Willow you look and there's a completely different baby in different scenes because they just have 8 babies, and whichever one wasn't crying.
So the baby wrangler just picked up the right baby and handled it.
Yes.
I think that scene where he's traveling with the cat in the subway is
I
one of the strongest scenes in the movie.
What are the odds the cat doesn't throw up on the subway? You can't take a cat in a car without having.
Honestly, I was most shocked. I was most shocked that he is never once scratched by the cat.
Yeah.
But then maybe that's just me and my underlying complex that I don't want to touch a cat because I can never tell when they're going to just decide to attack you.
So there's somebody in the movie named Green Fung. There's the one family.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Alex Karpowski and his wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely an example of Llewyn Davis not being able, not being able to not be an asshole.
Yes.
That reminds me of
Does that count? Do we have to drink?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. You got me.
So that reminds me of this one time. This is I'm kind of a child, sort of like he is, right? I was in court one time, and there was this Korean lady that didn't show up to court. And her name was Ho Hai. And she didn't show up, and her name was listed surname first. And so the lady sitting there calling everyone out, she's like, "Hi Ho? Hi Ho?" And I was just oh my God, please, somebody else say it, so I don't have to say it.
So I think we've mentioned that possibly the only bigger jerk in the movie than Llewyn Davis is John Goodman.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible performance.
That's a great part.
The moment in which he reveals his partner threw himself off the wrong bridge.
Threw him also off an aesthetically inferior bridge.
Well, that's clearly the wrong bridge. Your partner threw himself off the George Washington Bridge, not the Brooklyn Bridge. What kind of an infidel is he?
Yeah.
So
that was pretty funny.
So amazing restraint by the
he's a jerk in a lot of them.
There's no really restraint there because he looks back.
No. I'm saying in that scene, he just takes it up until that particular moment.
Yeah, remember he says something, and then John Goodman's character
that stick of yours.
Yeah.
Well, fit all the way up your ass.
Yeah, but
there's some
drink. Yeah. Not me this time. That was the moment that was the last straw.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, but then he says something.
That didn't. No, I'm saying.
Oh, and
I'm
then
saying,
Goodman gets
John
into
Goodman's character pauses for like half a
practicing
second,
Santeria,
and then just goes right back
He
to
ain't
being
got
a
no-
jerk.
he's
like
got
I
no
said.
crystal
Oh,
ball.
that's right. He starts threatening him with those.
He's just threatening with witchcraft. And actually, a very resonant curse, because he threatens him with the Santeria curse, but then also says that that it might not just be a mysterious pain. He might just ruin your life. You might just it might be subtle things. It might just be you don't know. I don't know where my life is gone. I don't know why things are like this.
when did my life turn into this pig pile of dross?
New overwrought theory. That's what his problem is.
Like John Goodman put a voodoo
Goodman
curse
did
on him
actually voodoo curse
that
him.
causes
Retroactively.
retroactively puts him in a time loop.
Well, but remember the thing where he shows up and Dylan's there on the same night. That actually happens after.
Yes, it
So
does.
I think that's what's going on. I think he scared the wrong guy
Because he left him with a
Santeria
cat.
cursed. Left him with a cat. Right. The cat which later shows up in Shape of Water and has an unfortunate incident, or possibly travels into space with Ripley and becomes the cat on the.
Did you catch the
Nostromo.
name of his driver?
No, I didn't. What was the name of his driver?
Johnny Five.
No,
And as far as we know, he is alive.
It was totally Johnny Five.
I even had to check the credits. That is a creative decision that really needs to be interrogated.
Yeah.
There's no possible way that's an accident.
You'd have to have a
No.
short circuit to write some stuff like that. That's terrible. We're getting towards the end here. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw in there?
But yeah, I feel like we haven't really come to grips with Llewyn Davis yet.
We haven't really gotten
this
inside
the
podcast.
person or the movie?
the character. Oh, let's just say one thing about this. This movie is this character. There's nothing else going on.
It
in
is
this
a
film.
week in the life of the
It
character.
is.
Yes,
This
yeah.
movie is as you said, picaresque about this guy's life, and it gives us a sense of time and place. It gives us a certain character.
Do you think there's any sort of forgiveness from Jean at the end of it?
Yeah, a little bit. She lightens up.
She
on
did,
it.
yeah.
Because she does go out of her and you find out from Pappy the way you get on the gaslight, and she does get him on the gaslight.
Yeah.
So is she?
Yeah.
Oh, you think she slept with Pappy to get him?
Yeah, my read of that scene was that she had slept with Pappy very recently. Yeah, until Chris brought this whole thing up, I didn't consider that it had been previous.
Because there is that loose rule that you don't get to go on the gaslight twice within a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And he's invited back.
Did they do the snapping thing in the movie? So the real gaslight had a lot of complaints from the neighbors about noise. So whenever somebody did a good job, everybody would snap as a crowd.
No, they
It was
didn't
like
do
a-
that.
No,
I don't think they did that in the film, but I heard that and I was like, that's an interesting little detail.
Also going back to the time frame thing we had earlier, you just reminded me that this whole movie takes place not even over a couple weeks. It's like 3 days. Specifically because the movie opens with her asking for money for the abortion, and then when he comes back from Chicago, she specifically says that it hasn't happened yet.
Right, it's on
she says
Saturday,
it's on
yeah.
Saturday, and he's like, yeah, a lot can happen, but I guess it's really only been a couple days. So so this is like 3 days in
I
his
think it takes
life,
place
maybe.
over a week, basically.
Yeah, there's a couple of nights that we see, a couple of places where he
Yeah,
sleeps.
we see him. I guess we see him sleep more than we see days pass. I guess that's ambiguous.
Right.
And,
It is
and we see
ambiguous.
him go back to the Garfinkel's and spend a night there, and the cat
Yeah.
comes back.
He stays over to his
The very
sister's
next
house.
day.
He's
He
in
stays at his
Chicago.
sister's house. He stays
Wait,
at the
wait, so
Garfinkel's
the
house. He
Garfinkel's,
stays in
right.
Chicago.
So the cat didn't come back the very next day, I guess.
Right.
No, it could actually stay
Yeah.
away. For
Thought he was a goner, but the cat came
No,
back.
no.
He
It was
just
not
couldn't
a
stay
goner.
away.
Fantastic voyage.
So, Joe, did you have a big surprise?
Incredible journey. Fantastic Voyage would be if the cat got really small went into somebody's body.
I'd pay to see that.
Went inside Llewyn Davis?
Yeah. All right. So I think we have. I think that's the third movie in the Llewyn Davis cinematic
Fantastic
trilogy.
Voyage of Ulysses the Cat.
Yeah. Yes. Inside
Right.
Llewyn Davis being John Malkovich.
Biggest surprise. Mine's crap, and I gave it already. I'm gonna punt on this particular part of the show.
I guess my biggest surprise was that it was a black comedy. I guess I was expecting it to be a much more straightforward biopic, like at least in format.
I mean,
if
Coen
not,
Brothers,
if
there's
not-
got to be an element of humor, right? And that's just the way they roll.
No Country for Old Men, I remember being pretty
That
dry.
was very bleak.
Yeah.
I
Granted, that's kind of an outlier, but
I kind of want to go back and watch it, but I remember being more entertained than I would have been if it had just been bleak all the way. I think it did have some.
I mean,
black humor
Tommy
to it.
Lee Jones has some good reaction shots.
So your biggest surprise was the
yeah.
black comedy nature
Garrett
of the
Dillahunt was
film.
in it. Yeah, I was expecting this to be a straightforward movie as opposed to like a black humored movie about. Hubris is not the word here, but I guess there's a certain Job quality to
tragic
this
flaw
movie
to the
where
guy.
he's
a little bit of Job,
where
he's put upon, but he creates his own problems in a way
In
that
part.
the whole
Yeah,
point
a
of
lot
the
of-
Job
yeah.
story is that he doesn't. He's perfect, and yet
Yeah.
God curses him.
Yeah.
Or maybe John Goodman curses him in this.
Yeah, so John Goodman might be God. I think we have a
John
new crack
Goodman
theory.
is
happening.
God. This guy has trouble finding a Job, and he's just bumming around.
Isn't God on the Nod like a famous piece of beat line?
It certainly sounds like a little bit of Allen Ginsberg. Yeah. Allen Ginsberg probably hung out at the Gaslight.
It all comes together.
Chris, you are recused from the conversation of whether we are toasting this classic. It is between Joseph and I.
We should let him cast his inevitable vote.
No, he can give opening statements, but he gets no vote. His vote means he's like DC. He's like,
You are out of order. You are out
he's
of
like
order.
the Vatican or the
He's
District of
he's not the
Columbia.
shadow senator of Llewyn Davis.
My opening statement is that Llewyn Davis is a movie I saw when it first came out in the theater. I saw it in the theater. It caused me to think about the movie consistently over the period of several weeks, come back and revisit it every couple of years. And I feel like every time I rewatch it, I find another nuance and layer to it. Llewyn is a very detailed character. His relationship with other people in the movies is informed as the movie unfolds. I think it's one of my top 3 Coen Brothers movies, and they're some of my favorite filmmakers in the world. So I obviously consider it a classic. But, of course, I defer to my companions here.
Spirited praise. Whereas I find myself having once again cut myself on the double-edged sword of watching the movie very close to the podcast, because much like Shape of
You
Water,
haven't had time to mull it over, like you said.
Yeah,
with Shape
yeah,
of Water,
yeah.
right?
Well, while
sure.
that means my recall is very good, it also means I haven't really, in a movie with a lot to mull over, I literally haven't had the time to mull it over.
I'm coming from a different place. I saw it several weeks ago, and I didn't really find myself going back to it mentally. I didn't really find it being something that compelled me to revisit it.
I suppose I will say that when I watched the movie, I did take it off my watch list. I remember thinking, I'm probably not going to go back to that one in a while. And while I'm not going to say that I'm reconsidering that stance, especially with what Chris had to say about with his literary analysis of the lyrics, which I knew while watching it, I was like, I know these lyrics are probably going to be important, but I just can't quite seem to focus on them. So I also watched them with subtitles off.
You know how we all said like Adam Driver was compelling in this? Right?
Well, a scene stealer
He
release.
steals a scene. He's very fun to watch.
Yep.
My favorite Coen Brothers movies have 6 or 7 characters like that, where the person's performance is just like, I love this. Like when George Clooney shows up in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, the way he talks, I literally had the sensation of being like, I want to watch this guy talk for 2 hours. I want to watch this character.
Do you not feel that way with Llewyn himself?
Not particularly.
Really?
I didn't hate him. I liked him on some level, but there's usually a verbal tick to their characters or some texture to it that just I'm just like I love this.
Llewyn is
There's something about this. That
Llewyn is deliberately a difficult character to like, and again, he's not. It would be hard to call him a bad person, but he's not a great person.
He's certainly crotchety. Is
Yeah,
possibly
yes.
the best description of him.
crotchety.
And I love this was my first introduction to Oscar Isaac as an actor.
Mine was X-Men Apocalypse, which did him no favors.
Stole the show. I
Who
think
is he playing that?
He plays Apocalypse.
Yes.
Really?
He's under a ton of makeup in that movie.
Wow.
And has probably less than 15 lines.
I feel like he would be happy if you forgot that.
You know what this reminds me of? Actually, I would put this out there. Llewyn Davis's character reminds me of one of the characters in Vince Gilligan, his work.
Like which one's?
Just
I'm guessing you mean Breaking Bad and not The X-Files.
Either Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Llewyn Davis
The characters you watch them make these decisions,
Clearly
and
flawed,
and you're just like, don't make that decision.
Yeah.
Why would you make that? But it's like that's what real people.
Yeah, the party where
you
the
know?
party where he blows up, I actually put my hands over my face. I was
That
feeling
is
the cringe so acutely.
Where
I was
he
like,
does what? What happened?
Where he blows up at the party.
The Glorfinkel's party.
Oh, yeah.
I will tell you, it is
Yeah.
so much more
Yes.
painful when you actually know his partner has died
Yeah,
and she
yeah.
starts singing his lyric.
Yeah, that's
But
yeah.
then
that-
it's painful
yeah,
a different
that-
way.
yeah,
Then
that-
you're
yeah,
experiencing his pain.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
that's
why not?
that's a
Yeah.
completely different read on the scene that I was ignorant of. So yes,
This is kind of tough. I'm actually having trouble with my vote.
yeah, I feel like I would be disrespectful.
This is not one of my favorite. This is not one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, and a couple of their movies are like in my top 10, 15 movies. Like I mean, I love them. So that's not. So saying this is not my favorite Coen Brothers movie is not saying I don't like the movie.
That is certainly like not the harshest condemnation we could make of a
it's
movie.
not.
I feel
Because
like
it's not my least favorite. I didn't like the one with Billy Bob Thornton, The Man Who Wasn't There. I think it was
that's a
called.
weak
I saw
one.
that and I
Yeah,
just didn't really connect
Where
with
And
it.
here I thought you were thinking
It goes black and white. Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say Sling Blade for a minute, but then I realized no, Billy Bob.
Oh no,
directed
Sling
that
Blade.
himself.
Sling Blade.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, but that's not
that
actually
movie
Coen.
was terrific.
Yeah, but that's not a Coen Brothers movie.
No, that's not a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have anything against Billy Bob Thornton in general.
Not a Coen Brothers movie.
Joe, do you want to give opening statements, or do you want to just give a vote?
I'm
I'm really having a tough time. We're assuming Chris is a vote. We got one in favor.
Yeah. I feel like I would be disrespecting the movie if I said no. And since my only options are no and yes, I guess I'm going to say yes.
But it's not just a question of whether is this a good movie. Do you like this movie? Is this a classic film? If you wanted to go to somebody and explain to them, oh, the Coen Brothers are great, I'm going to play you a Coen Brothers movie. How many movies did you have to play before you'd get to this one?
Because the Coen Brothers do have a varied enough oeuvre, if I may.
They do.
That it would kind of depend on like what you're trying to show that person. Like
True.
I think like choosing to show them the Hudsucker Proxy would say a very different thing about the Coen Brothers.
I would not choose the Hudsucker
than
Proxy.
if you showed them like Blood Simple. Or one or the
Hudsucker
other.
Proxy, though, is a good example of what I'm talking about. There's usually these verbal tics. And there's a couple of scenes in there where Tim Robbins is like talking and he's like, it's a hoop, for kids.
For kids,
And like they keep saying that phrase,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about their movies, is those kind of phrasings that keep coming up. It's almost like a bardic repetition of something, and the third or fourth time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I like this,
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on the language.
Yeah, the
I mean,
movie in
like-
this is very naturalistic outside of like John Goodman's amazing
He's
ranting.
great. John Goodman is a great interlude. That's fun. He is a fun character and stuck out to me. Like I remember.
And the King Midas is idiot brother line.
That kid, the girl annoyed me so much. I was having trouble with that. She was her being so sanctimonious.
So
And
I
we
would
didn't
describe it more as-
didn't really talk about this, and it's kind of important. But she's so sanctimonious about having gotten knocked up by him and what a jerk he is. And he says it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
He finally defends himself a little bit.
So this is a really scene, and I feel like that is kind of Llewyn Davis in a nutshell in terms
Same
of the
thing he
viewers.
does with John Goodman.
in
He
terms of
finally defends himself.
Well, even more so because the thing is the abuse from John Goodman is clearly completely undeserved. Whereas,
quick overwrought theory for a second.
please,
The thing that sets him off with John Goodman is somebody says something bad about his partner.
Yes.
The thing that sets him off with her is she says this, and he says it takes two to tango. And the whole point of the thing is that he's no good without the other guy he's supposed to tango with. The whole movie is about he lost his partner. That's a pretty good little rhyme.
Is
is that back to your queer? Is that
That's
like
my
the
over-
possible
that's
queer?
probably my override.
Is that the queer reading?
As I think I
It
said,
could
at
be,
the
but
top,
no, I
he's
don't
in the
think
last two stages of grief over the death of his partner.
Right.
Yeah.
That scene is in some way, or in some ways, the movie in a microcosm, because in that it isn't hard to sympathize with Llewyn, because it's a scene where he's just getting dressed down, and mostly just really taking it from someone who's coming off kind of unsympathetically, even though she has a valid reason to be angry. But at the same
But
time,
does she? 'Cause she was there too.
she's not blameless. She has a good reason to be angry. Maybe not to be angry at Llewyn
Right.
specifically,
She has a good reason
but
to
she
be
has a good reason to
upset.
be upset. Yes,
definitely.
But,
She has a good, but he isn't particularly.
but at the same time, it's not wrong for Llewyn to be made to feel bad about betraying his one friend by sleeping with another.
Yes, but it should be the friend dressing him down, not the wife that's sleeping with multiple
could
different
see
people.
it either ways,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, I guess so.
So my point is that that's a scene where there are
Justin
reasons.
Timberlake's character is entirely put upon.
Yeah.
He seems like a good guy.
And
He seems like
entirely-
he's helping his buddy,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yes.
I don't see him having a lot of flaws except
And
being kind of
blameless
square.
and probably the best person in the movie.
Yes, I think so. Well, no,
yeah.
the other folk singer, the nerdy country folk singer, comes across as
I
being.
think Timberlake is as good, if not better. He
Maybe
gets him
more.
the job.
Yeah.
He puts him up at
Yeah,
least
he's a good
twice.
friend. No,
yeah.
I think he's.
I
doing
feel
a good thing.
I feel like you could also make a really good reading on that guy whose name I completely blank now. Yeah, as kind
The
of
country dude.
Yeah, the country
Yeah, I
dude
can't
is
remember his name.
as the mirror universe version of Llewyn, where he's in the army. Llewyn was a seaman.
Al Jolson, I believe.
Yes, thank you. That guy's career is going up. Lewis's career is going down. I feel like there's probably a reading to be made focusing on the contrast of those two
I think
characters.
so, and also-
even though that dude appears
and
in
also
the
you
movie for
remember
5 minutes.
When he goes to see F. Murray Abraham, he makes a comment on how
that
dark
guy.
he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
He makes a comment on try not to look so dark. Try to stay out of the sun. He tells him
He says, if you
that was
shave down
a
to
lot.
a goatee and stay
stay
out of the sun.
because he's
But
trying to.
then he also says about the other guy specifically, he connects with people.
Right. But it's because he's just like a white dude. Or not, white's the wrong word for it, but you know what I mean? Like a.
Circling back to what
What's
you
the
said
word?
as
What's the word for it?
repetition in Coen Brothers movies, I believe the repetition here comes lyrically.
Okay.
Because they played Dink's song
They do.
at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Dink song being Dink is the.
If I had wings, I know I would.
Yeah. Did they play it over the credits? It gets played at least
It's
twice
played
during the
three
movie
songs
proper.
in the movie. It's played first, I believe, with the mic backup lyrics, and then he sings it a cappella, and she joins in, and he breaks down, and then he sings it on the stage at the end.
Yeah.
So what I'm coming down to is that Chris's opinion is something I respect, and the things he's saying about this film, having seen it a whole bunch of times, is making me think this movie was better than I thought it was on watching it. You know, like I watched it, I liked it fine, like it was good, but I didn't see the rich undertones and stuff that you're talking about. 100%. It wasn't my favorite Coen Brothers movie. Maybe just to make things interesting, I think I'll vote against. I don't know if that really expresses my heartfelt feeling about this movie.
Yeah, you're really playing devil's advocate here.
A little bit. So I'm gonna put the ball in your court. This is up to you. This is 1-1. You're the tiebreaker vote on this. Is this one going down in the canon of folk singer biopic?
Well,
fictional?
Since you were denying me symmetry by there not being an abstain option, my opinion is closer to classic than not classic.
Okay.
So
This is a near run thing. This is a close. This one's close.
Yeah, this one is definitely close.
It's 1-1, and you're giving like a 0.3 in favor. So
It's
Skin of the teeth.
It's
I didn't
not-
know human teeth had skin.
I feel like
isn't that weird?
it is a movie that is
if you
demanding.
brush them, they don't.
It is a movie that is a little demanding of the viewer in terms of like how willing you are to sympathize with / indulge the main character.
That's certainly accurate.
And how much you are willing to closely read the movie. Like again, I knew that like I was going to be doing myself a disservice, not like closely reading the lyrics, but I just could. I really didn't want to put the subtitles on just for the lyrics.
I felt like taking notes during this movie helped me appreciate it more. Honestly.
Oh, that's true with everything I've ever done on this show, on Toasting the Classics
Really?
in general. Watching and reading things with a mind towards talking about it later, just express. You engage with things. All right, so we have a vote of 1.3 for and 1 against. And I think that means that we are initiating this into the Toasting the Classics canon. And everybody should put their glasses up. Let's have a toast to Inside Llewyn Davis. I think we're done for the week, guys. I think we're ready to close this one up. Are we going to be doing anything anytime soon? Anything else? We haven't talked about anything, so we'll talk about it off
I think
mic.
Joe's the next pick, right?
Joe's I didn't know we were doing
dude,
that. I don't
is-
think I've actually just picked anything the three of us have done.
Well, I mean, you do all the time.
Okay, that's true.
Wow.
So for now, I think we're going to sign off for Toasting the Classics for the week. This is
Chris Gragg.
Joe Glazes.
and Dave McArthur
Joseph.
saying thanks for sitting around with us and having some drinks, guys. We had a good time. Peace out.
Skull.
That's it for episode 60 of Toasting the Classics. For those playing along at home, stay tuned to find out what we'll be drinking next time when we discuss the landmark graphic novel The Dark Knight Returns. If you'd like to get in touch, please send us an email at toastingtheclassics@gmail.com. Send us show ideas, comments, complaints, and let us know your top 3 Coen Brothers movies. Check out my blog at theattractivenuisance.com and follow us on Twitter at @ractivenuisance. Our music was written by Michelle McArthur. See you next time on Toasting the Classics.
If I had wings.
There's always something with
No,
Chris
I
singing that I have to cut
would.
at the end of the show.